Welcome back, guys, to a little midweek update. In today's video, we're just going to jump straight into things, and I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing here on the charts and how things are playing out. This is a bit more of an emergency video, as I do believe that if Bitcoin is to lose these lows here, we may potentially see fresh lows. However, things are playing out somewhat perfectly from Sunday's little drawing that we did, and we have seen those $119,000, $120,000 highs taken. We've seen liquidity taken from the upside here, and now we are pulling back and finding support, similar to the way things did back here during the corrective phase, where we did this whole big ABC that we spent months talking about. And then once we did that, we grinded up, moved to the upside, grabbed liquidity from the top of this range, pulled back, and I think we are in something like this now for Bitcoin, where we should start to see it move to the upside, sweep the highs again, consolidate, and then break out. And that's kind of what I have drawn out here. However, there is one other thing I wanted to show you guys, and that is the point of today's video. And we're going to tie this into the altcoin market as well. So if you're here for alts, just hang around for that. And what scenario that I could also see playing out here is the way things actually played out back in the mid-2024 correction. And if you're a longer viewer of the channel, you'll know that this ABC correction we spent months talking about was just this ABC correction, pretty much the same thing. However, what you're noticing here is there was a little bit of trickery. This was the initial ABC correction a lot of people thought that it had happened. However, what we did see was price shoot back up to the upside, and then we actually found support lower and completed our C leg before then consolidating and breaking to the upside. And the way we actually found the bottom here back in 2024 was once price had broken to the upside, Bitcoin formed this consolidation range, broke to the upside, but before breaking to the upside, there was another little consolidation range, and our level that we were looking for to be filled here was the base of this consolidation range and the top of this one. And that's how Bitcoin ended up finding support back in August of 24. It was also the exact same way we did our ABC here and found support in these levels. Again, top of the consolidation range. There is a little corrective wave here, harder to see on the 4 hour, but if I jump down on the 15-minute time frame here, you can see the same thing. Top of the range, bottom of this little corrective wave that gets formed once price is broken out, and then bang, there it is. That's how we found our C leg bottom. And if we have a look at price today, since breaking out, we have done something quite similar. However, I believe that same range does lie in between $112,000 and $113,000 here. So if we do start to see trickery and these levels don't hold and things want to play out like they did in 2024 during Bitcoin's mid-cycle correction, what we could see is actually Bitcoin lose these levels, this C leg be a bit of a fake out, and price actually shoot down somewhere in these levels around 112,000. However, right now, as far as things stand, everything's playing out like we've mapped out, and I'm liking the look of this. But the reason I want to give this example on Bitcoin is though that if these levels do get lost, we end up sweeping these lows and coming down and actually putting in our C leg down here, what could actually happen for the altcoin market? And the reason I'm actually 50-50 on which scenario I think could play out right now is because of the way that we actually mapped price out on the altcoin market here. And as you can see, this is crypto market excluding Bitcoin, so all of our alts. And what you can see is things are playing out how we mapped things out last week in our Friday altcoin video. However, you can see at some point from the example that we used from the past, price did fall down to this 702 Fibonacci retracement level, which is why we've drawn things out like that. And I think that what would cause the altcoins to actually break down, lose this low, and actually find support back down on this 702 level that we have mapped out here would be something like Bitcoin faking out here, going and setting a new lower low and actually completing its ABC correction, which could therefore cause the altcoin market to fall a little bit lower and actually complete this drawing that we have here from Friday's video. So these are the two scenarios I'm currently looking at right now, and I'm just trying to deliver this to you guys as fast as possible because things do move very fast, especially in these final stages of the market cycle. However, not to be taken by surprise if we do see these levels lost. This doesn't end up playing out and we do start to see lows down here at about $112,000 to $113,000 for Bitcoin, which again would give us that altcoin market back down at that 702 retracement, which you can then find support on and take off. If you want to know where we got this drawing from, you should look back to Friday's altcoin video where we go into much more depth on this. Now, as far as things pertain to select altcoins like XRP, for example, there's one thing I also wanted to touch on how price would react for XRP in a move like that, where we see Bitcoin go down, set a new low, and the altcoin market also set a new low. And what I can see playing out right now, if Bitcoin's level is to hold, is that this was actually the first wave for Bitcoin. This was the second wave. We should see our third wave a little higher, fourth wave a little lower, and then we should start to see XRP break out and continue. And we're getting this data from actually our Litecoin example. And what you can see is, if you're an older viewer of the channel, you'll know that this is Litecoin's mid-cycle correction, bear market, mid-cycle correction, bull run, went and completed a full extension. What you can see is that we were charting all of this out while it was playing out, drawing examples to how XRP played out like Litecoin from 2017. We did the ABC correction, we found the 3 highs at the same level, we broke to the upside, and now what we can see is that in 2017, once Litecoin broke out into a new all-time high, this is how things played out. It fell back, found support at its 786, just above its 702 fib level, and then went up, consolidated for a little bit up here, flagged out, and then just exploded. And that was pretty much the second half of the 2017 alt season. And then Litecoin went on for a full extension. And I'm seeing similar things play out here on XRP. If we have a look at things from a higher time frame here, what we can see is that XRP has completed its mid-cycle correction, thank God, and we've actually seen the breakout, similar to the way we've seen the breakout on Litecoin, even in the smallest details here when we have a look at the way XRP actually broke out, and then it came down in this moment here and actually back tested the previous range highs before then continuing and breaking to a new high. Same thing we've seen on Litecoin, where if we zoom in here, we can see that once Litecoin broke out here, back tested that same range high, and then that was the little parabola move that happened and took it to those new all-time highs. And we've seen the same thing play out on XRP after this back test came in here of the range highs, and then the little parabola move that set it into a new all-time high. And then what we've seen on XRP so far, once we've broken out, is price fall back below that $3.40 high and consolidate in here. And on Litecoin, we've seen something similar. There were a few wicks that went to the downside here. However, our price did stay above the 702 fib level, which if we actually pull up our fib tool and draw it out on XRP right now, what you'll see is that XRP is essentially finding support on its 786, and here's the 702, bang, we are holding above that level, the same way Litecoin did. However, if we do look at the Litecoin chart again, you can see there is a second candle that happens a day or two after the first initial sell-off happens that does actually take it down and set that new low. You can see it right here, there is a new low, but day closes green. And to see something on like that on XRP, I mean, there is the potential we could see that low swept. In a dream scenario, we could even see XRP get to those 280s, mid 280s, which would just be an absolute awesome opportunity to take long positions. However, I don't think that we're going to get that. I think the most optimistic thing for XRP at this stage is actually to hold these levels. But if Bitcoin does break down and the altcoins break down, I could see XRP just sweeping these lows the same way Litecoin just swept this low. And that if we're to see that, XRP should hold above the 702, which is around that $2.92 level. So this is what I'm seeing at the moment on the charts, guys. This is how I'm seeing things play out for XRP. A lot of these altcoins are just holding up fine. I mean, HBAR has been really strong throughout this entire correction, even setting new highs. CRV, for example, also really strong. It sold off recently in the last 24 hours, but still performing great. A lot of the coins that we actually touched on in the altcoin video have set highs during a corrective stage for Bitcoin, and also just consolidating, but everything looks fine. Structurally, everything has held up quite well. It wouldn't surprise me to start to see a lot of these coins actually hold this mid-range. As long as Bitcoin holds this mid-range, and as long as the alts actually hold here, we should start to see a series of higher lows get formed and actually break to the upside. However, I do want to just emphasize the fact that we could see some trickery if this doesn't end up being the C leg, and we do see a C leg come down here. Don't be surprised by that. But all in all, everything looks fine, and things are playing out quite nicely to the way we charted on Sunday for our little intro week video. But just to remember, if you watch Sunday's video, we have swept the liquidity from that $119,000, $120,000 level, but there was still liquidity that lies at the lows. So if we do see the lows get swept, just understand that that is liquidity on the long side being taken down here at 114,000. And I don't think it'll be a big flush or a crash. It'll just be a simple sweep of these lows and probably find support $1,000 or $2,000 lower for Bitcoin, which again isn't something to be unexpected, as we have seen the altcoin market play out like this in the past. And even if we look to 2017, we see Litecoin played out like this, where it ended up setting that new low after breaking out into a new all-time high. And it wouldn't surprise me if the coin that we're comparing that to, which is XRP, was also to do something similar and maybe push a little low down here. But right now, everything looks fine. It's just as long as Bitcoin holds this mid-range, which, as you guys can see, there is a ton of support at this level. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Bitcoin actually hold this region. However, if it does fail and it does break down, most likely going to set new lows, sweep liquidity from the bottom side. So just a little quick midweek update for you guys. I hope no one's getting too bored in this little corrective phase that we're seeing after our nice little 2 to 3 weeks of just green candles every single day. However, everything's still playing exactly the way it is. Even the Bitcoin dominance still just chopping around in here, and what we should start to see is that this high ends up being the high for the dominance, and then the next high gets formed a little lower, and then another lower high, and then a series of lower lows will also get formed in here for the dominance, and we will grind down and break down into the second phase of the alt season, similar to the way things played out in 2021. So I hope you guys are all well. Feel free to smash the like button on this video if you enjoyed the little midweek update. Try to keep things as fast as possible for you guys so you don't have to listen to half an hour or an hour of rambling just to get a quick little midweek emergency video out. However, if things are a little fast for you guys today, just feel free to let me know in the comments section, and I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Have a good rest of your day.